The Witch and the Orchard, written by Desmond Lynch. Episode 2, The Great Shame. The news of the mist had reached all those who travelled northeast. Merchants who had once ventured through the valley in the spring now no longer chose to dwell in these parts. The town is bereft of life as the witch limps her way across the main road. Her ankle had felt better when she awoke, so she thought she'd walk down from the villa. While she walks, the quiet eyes of the village feel as fearful and hateful as ever, yet grief hangs in the air. News of the woman who had been killed in the riot yesterday spread like wildfire. Not a soul in the valley had not heard of it by now. The witch finds the local inn, the Plump Maiden, in the bleak cold morning. It is the largest building in the village, 2 stories tall and slightly dilapidated. On entering the inn, she finds no sign of life, but for a few drunkards who lie drooling in the corners while the innkeeper stands behind the bar. The innkeeper, a tired woman with greying hair, shoots the witch a dirty look before recalling herself and looking away. She twitches under the cold gaze of the witch as she makes her way towards the bar.
We got nothing here for you. Be gone now. You hear?
I'm here on behalf of your lord. You will answer my questions.
Me lord's business. It's his business. And this is mine. I won't have it. I won't have it!
Look at me.
The room grows colder as the witch speaks. A touch of frost develops on the glass the innkeeper holds. She looks down at it, aghast.
Why are you afraid to look at me?
It's said that if you look in the eyes of a witch, she can steal your soul.
If you are so frightened of me, then simply comply, and I will leave your humble establishment at once.
The innkeeper looks at her for a moment.
All right.
Your land has been cursed by someone who had died in the orchard. A horrible and painful death. I need to know who.
What? Like a murder? Nobody's been murdered round here.
The cause of death is not important. All I need to know is who has died in the orchard.
Oh, well, lots of people. It's hard work out there by the trees all day. No rest, no water. Always get a few old men every summer who just fall down, dead as a doorknob.
Has anybody died recently? Say, in the last few weeks?
No, not recently. Only thing's been happening is the disappearances. And me daughters have been getting nightmares. All the children have.
Has she told you what these nightmares are?
No, not at all. Says when she wakes, she can't remember them. But they're so bad that she is scared to sleep. I'm up half the night worried to death about her.
Had anyone died during the winter?
A few. It's the chill. Gets the owl, but it also got a few little ones as well. They found this poor girl out in the orchard, face down in the dirt she was. Snow covered her like a blanket. She must have gone out at night and... poor girl.
How old was this girl?
16, just about. Too young. Too young.
Do you know her name?
Kaya, it was. She was Susanna's girl.
Where can I find Susanna?
She's 4 houses down by the market. Why? Oh, God. You don't think... Oh, that poor girl.
The house of Susanna is a small, 1-story home with whitewashed walls and a thatched roof. The witch knocks on the old wooden door, and there is no response. She knocks again, nothing. She goes to the small hatch in the wall to see if she can peer through the windows. She cusps her hands around her eyes and peers in. The windows are covered with dust and condensation. She cannot see anything inside.
She's not there, you know.
Henrika turns around and sees 10 feet behind her stands the pale girl she had met at the orchard. Her ever-present smile peers out from beneath her dark hood.
You're wasting your time here, witch. There's nothing here for you.
Do you know where she is?
She went off to the woods.
When will she be back?
She won't be back.
Why won't Susanna be back?
She had a big family once. Husband died in the plague, as did her 3 sons and her other daughter. She had 1 child left, and without her, well, those who've lost so much no longer feel the warmth of the sun. They walk into the woods and they don't come back.
The witch begins slowly moving around the pale girl.
When did Susanna go into the woods?
A few days ago.
I talked to the innkeeper. She said Susanna would be here. If Susanna went to the woods, why hasn't anyone told me? Why are you the one to tell me this? Why wouldn't anyone else know?
Why would anyone else want to know? She went to the woods. It's her own business.
How do you know then?
I know lots of things.
Oh, I bet you do. Tell me, how does it make you feel that Susanna went into the woods?
Don't really feel much about it.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all.
Even though she was your...
Be on your way, Lord Witch. This valley is no concern to you. The sun will never curse these lands again. All shall shrivel and die. Leave now, lest you wish to die with them.
What does this have to do with...
Narrowly missing the witch's head, a stone tumbles on Susanna's floor, having smashed through the window.
Oi, you!
The witch turns to see a drunk descending the street.
Come over here, you ugly hag.
The witch turns back to face the pale girl, but she sees that she is gone, nowhere to be seen. Agitated, she turns back to face the drunk and walks down the street towards him.
I'll burn out like a bad ham. Come on, then, you devil's whore. I'll beat the living.
Approaching the drunk, Henrika removes a strange-looking vegetable from underneath her jacket, holding it in her hand for a moment. Suddenly, smoke blooms from the vegetable.
What in the heavens?
Henrika holds the vegetable under his nose. The drunk breathes in the smoke. He staggers back, dropping the bottle from his hand and starts to cough.
What did you do to me, witch? You've cursed me, haven't you?
His eyes begin watering as he looks at her. As soon as the smoke dissipates, she pockets the vegetable once more.
There's a tribe in the jungles north of the ruins of Kiamor called the Sayonarans. They have a vegetable called papafraya. It is said that when you burn it and breathe in its fumes, the body is removed of all the alcohol it has consumed. So, to answer your question, yes, I have cursed you. I have cursed you with sobriety.
The drunkard stares at her, speechless. He looks down at his hands and, now no longer stumbling, he stands up straight.
My apologies.
He then turns around and walks away, his head hanging low.
Wait, I'm not done with you yet.
The drunkard turns around.
Before you so rudely interrupted me, I was searching for a woman. Susanna. Her daughter Kaya had died in the orchard last winter. Susanna lives in that house over there. The very one with the window you so kindly smashed. Did you know her?
I do know her, yes. I grew up with Susanna, and I saw Kaya around the village. But I did not know her personally.
Do you know if she had any friends or family?
Yeah, they were relations with Gregor Bestinchia. Kaya worked as a milkmaid there.
Where is Gregor's farm?
The drunkard points south of the village, away from the villa, his hand shaking.
Thank you. And be careful what you say. The drink gives small souls great courage, but not everyone is as generous as I.
The witch climbs the hill back up to the villa, her ankle now swelling with pain with each laborious step. The painkiller tea she had brewed that morning had clearly worn off. By this point, she truly regretted not taking her horse. She makes her way into the plaza, a fervent rage brewing in her gut with each new spasm of pain. She forgoes any sense of finding painkillers and instead heads straight for her horse. She does not see her mare anywhere in the stable. Her breathing grows coarser and her hands begin to shake. She checks each stable room, finding stallions and geldings, draft horses and thoroughbreds, but no grey mare. She finds the stable boy on a stool, head down and breathing gently, hidden away in the bottom end corner of the stable. She kicks him hard in the shin. The stable boy jolts up, wide awake.
Where's my horse?
The horse should be right here, ma'am.
The horse should be here, yet it isn't. So I ask again, where is my bloody horse?
It should be right.
The boy quickly makes his way to the nearest stable door and finds no horse inside. His face goes pale.
Here.
What did I say would happen if you did not take care of my horse?
I don't know what's happened.
What did I say?
Any mistreatment shall be returned thricefold upon my family.
That is correct. Now, go get me a new one, or else I will increase that suffering 1,000-fold. Go!
The boy runs off. Furious, Henrika looks into the stable room where her mare was kept for a moment and then enters. She moves through the small room, looking around, and immediately finds what she was looking for hidden beside a bale of hay. Horse droppings. She crouches beside the manure and removes a broken compass from her pocket. She removes the compass needle and dips the tip of the needle into the manure. She then fixes it back on top of the compass. She holds the compass in the palm of her left hand, and with her right she removes a small box from her pocket. Opening the box, she finds a small vial of clear water. She opens the vial and pours a single drop into the compass. The compass begins to glow dimly with a series of red runes. The needle begins spinning around. The needle stops spinning and settles on a direction, southeast. Henrika rises to her feet as the stable boy returns with a palomino. She wordlessly takes the palomino and rides off in the direction of where her grey mare seems to be. She rides the palomino down to the orchard. The horse trots down the hill from the road, moving past the apple trees whose bark is stained with black blood. As they reach the border of the mist, the palomino neighs upsettingly and halts in its tracks. Henrika pulls the reins, urging the horse to stay put. She looks down at her compass and sees that it is pointing in the direction of the mist. She leads the horse up and down the borders of the mist, the horse's breath now visible as they enter the chill. As she moves up and down the border, she finds a point where the compass begins to glow a dim red. She lifts her eyes up from the compass and sees that it is pointed to a sickly tree within the orchard. Her eyes narrow. She closes the compass and moves back. She quickly scours the ground for any sign of tracks. The grass is too short and the soil too hard to leave any discernible hoof prints. As she is about to give up, she spots it. A faint strip of leather along the border of the mist. The leather is shriveled and eroded. She holds the leather in her hands and then looks at the tree within the mist. Still crouching, she looks at the leather strip and back to the saddle on her palomino. She cannot recall the texture of the grey mare's saddle. Then, she places the leather strip side by side to her boot. The leather is dark brown, while Henrika's is pure black. She looks back at her new horse and back towards the dead tree within the mist.
Farewell, grey mare.
She mounts her palomino and rides on towards Gregor's farm, hoping to find more answers in this accursed land. It is a 30-minute ride to the farm. The mist has poured out across the field, but it is nowhere near as dense as it was in the orchard. The cows and sheep that once roamed free in their fields now cower in the corners by the fence, where the mist does not intrude. She finds a small 2-storey farmhouse built beside a large barn, with which rides her palomino up to the barn, dismounts and ties the reins around the post. An old man emerges from the house, his arms skinny and chest wide. His face is wrinkled and dry, like fine leather exposed to the elements. A permanent scowl dons his face and his eyes look out painfully across the land. Behind him is a middle-aged woman, her greying hair tied back in a tight bun, lifting her face up just a bit. She also possesses the same perpetual frown of her husband. The man approaches Henrika.
State your business.
My name is Enrica O'Dare. I'm a witch. I was summoned by your lord to lift the curse that plagues your land. I seek to learn about Kaya, daughter of Susanna, the girl who died in the orchard during the winter. You are Gregor?
That be me, aye.
Did you know Kaya?
I did, aye. Her mother sent her to me during the autumn. She used to work at the villa as one of them chambermaids.
don't know why exactly she was sent to me. But her mother did not want her in the villa. So I put her to work on the farm. She was a fine milkmaid. She was a good girl. Never complained. Never spilt a drop. Very sad when someone goes so soon. Even worse like that.
Indeed. How were you related to Susanna?
Her husband was my brother. He died in the plague. So did his sons. Susanna was all alone with Kaya. It was hard for them, so we tried to help best we could. Anything we had to spare, we gave to them. But it wasn't a lot. And it wasn't enough.
Did you hear about Susanna going into the woods?
No, but it's no surprise. After Kaya, she was not well. She hasn't been well for a long time. But Kaya was the last thing that kept that woman together. Without her, I say it's no surprise. The priest talks about her life as sacred. To take it as a sin most foul. But for Susanna to fall the same way that her daughter, I don't know what life would be had after that. I can't.
Susanna died like Kaya.
Similar enough.
Do you know where Kaya is buried?
Why?
I believe that whatever happened to Kaya may be related to what is plaguing your lands. I need to find out if there is an aura on her grave. Something left behind that someone may have placed.
An aura? By God. Her grave is in the cemetery by the church. Half a mile north of the villa. Search for a freshly carved gravestone. That's where she lay.
Thank you, Gregor.
The witch turns to leave, but pauses for a moment.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you, witch. You be careful with that grave now, you hear? Don't be touching it or nothing. For Susanna's sake.
She looks away from Gregor.
I will.
The old man stands back, watching her mount her palomino and ride off into the horizon. His wife heads back inside. Gregor stands there for some time after. He looks over the lands shrouded with mist and damns it all to hell. It is late evening as the stable boy finishes his duties for the day. He hadn't had time to go home as he had hoped, and he is far too tired to do so now. He will be paid in 2 days' time, he reminds himself, and in doing so he will return home to buy his mother, father and younger siblings some fine food and anything else they need. In the end it will all be worth it, or so he tells himself as he leans against the wall of the stable, body aching. As he is about to return to his small lodgings by the stable, he sees Hare riding in on the palomino he had provided her earlier today. His heart sinks as she rides up towards him. He averts his eyes, and yet he still feels the witch's cold gaze descend upon him.
You there, boy. Grab a shovel and a horse. You're coming with me.
Mum, I'm sorry. I'm needed back at the stables.
No, you're not. Do as I say, boy, if you know what's good for you. Go!
The boy runs off to the stable, and the witch waits in the yard impatiently. The boy returns a few minutes later, shovel in hand and leading a brown gelding by the reins. They ride off down the hill, silent as the night. They tie both their horses by the gate and walk gently between the gravestones. The pair walk freely as the mist dares not invade the grounds of the churchyard. The boy is shivering. The lantern he holds before him gives off little to no warmth. Although she is certain there is slim to no chance that the lantern could burn her, Enrica refuses to carry it all the same. It does not take them long to find Kaya's grave. The cemetery is small and old. The girl's gravestone has not yet withered to the passage of time. The witch sticks a shovel into the dirt, steps back and gestures the boy forward.
Dig.
I can't.
My horse is dead because of you. I paid quite a price for it. Now so will you.
I'm not digging up that grave.
Boy, you have two choices. Either you dig, or I will render unto you a curse most foul. I will make you long for the grave you are so hesitant to upheave. Your choice.
He looks at the fresh gravestone. The once fresh earth has now grown hard and coarse as the seasons changed. Although he cannot read, he knows whose grave it is all too well. He sniffles and coughs, averting his gaze from the witch as his eyes begin to water. He grabs the shovel and begins to dig. All is silent throughout the night. The witch stands back from the gravestone, away from the lantern beside the boy digging. She looks across the walls and notices for the first time how the mist retreats from the churchyard. Noting this, the witch grabs 2 fresh vials from her pocket and gathers some dirt. One from the earth she walks upon, the other from the dirt that buried Kaya. An hour passes by. The boy's breath grows heavier as his strikes into the dirt weaken. He feels the glare of the witch on his back and he pushes himself forward. By the second hour, his hands begin to blister and bleed. Exhaustion seeps into him, but the fear of what the witch might do pushes him forward. The worst thing that could happen if he were to keep digging is to die, he tells himself. And there are so many things worse than death the witch could unleash upon him. Upon the 5th hour they enter midnight. All is dark but for the lantern by the grave. The witch folds her arms and tightens her coat to keep warm. The boy heaves a great sigh and drops to his knees. The shovel is marred with blood and his hands tremble as he reconstitutes himself. The witch looks at him pitifully as he begins to whimper.
Get out. I will do the rest from here.
No, I can...
You've done quite enough. Rest, boy. But be wary. We're not alone on this cold, dead night.
The boy painstakingly climbs out of the deep hole he has dug for himself. He crawls for a moment before the witch grabs his arm and pulls him to his feet. The boy shakes, averting his eyes as he slowly begins to move forward. The witch jumps down, grabs the shovel and gets to work as the boy collapses against the gravestone across from the grave. He stares off into the sky for a moment before leaning his head and looking towards the boundary of the graveyard. There he sees her, a girl donned in a dark cloak carrying a basket beyond the wall staring back at him. He tries to utter something before his eyes grow heavy and he passes out from exhaustion. The last thing he sees, that old familiar smile.
What is the meaning of this?
The boy jolts up, fully alert. He steadies himself on the gravestone he has been resting against. A blanket falls off of him as he rises to his feet. His clothes still damp from sweat, he looks around confused, still dazed from his slumber. He sees the priest marching towards them. Henrika still in the grave, her hat and coat now removed. Her sleeves rolled up, exposing the severe burns along her arms. She climbs up from the hole to greet the preacher.
Father, you're up late.
Disturbing the dead, are we? Defiling the resting place for these poor souls? Oh, I thought you couldn't sink any lower, you wretched hag.
The priest looks down towards the grave and sees the lid of Kaya's coffin peering out from the dirt. Henrika stands before him, resting against a spade now dug firmly into the ground.
I am merely carrying out my duty with the investigation.
Investigation? This is necromancy, most vile. With the body of a suicide, no doubt. Oh, what nefarious deeds do you plan to lay upon us, witch? What plague do you seek to ruin us with?
None that you have not already brought upon yourselves.
That's it. You've insulted me and threatened me long enough. You've corrupted the youth, robbed from graves, and defiled the resting dead. Boy, go redeem yourself. Gather the villagers. It's time we put this hag to the stake.
You will do no such thing.
And why is that?
Because the boy is under my command. And even if he wasn't, I could unleash upon you the fiercest horrors of hell before the first pitchfork graces my throat. How fast do you think the boy can run, Father?
The priest grows pale. He looks back and forth between the boy and the witch. He goes to speak, but no words come forth. He gives a faint, fearful smile before turning heel and begins to run away. The witch turns to look at the boy. She gestures for him to go after the priest, and menace fills her silver eyes. Panicked, the boy sprints forward. He quickly catches up to the priest, who looks back over his shoulder, confused and horrified as the boy lunges forward and tackles him to the ground. Henrika looks at the two toppled bodies, bewildered. She makes her approach at a quick pace. The boy jolts up from the ground while the priest lies there whimpering, his body twisted in a gnarly manner.
I tackled a priest.
I think you crippled a priest, boy.
Oh, God.
The witch crouches down beside the shambly-haired man. He grows visibly paler as his body writhes in agony. She lifts up his shirt and examines his hip. She prods around carelessly with her cold hand. The witch lowers his shirt and gets back up to her feet.
Your hip is dislocated. If you do not get healed soon, you could be crippled for life. I can save you, but you will have to behave. Is that understood?
The priest shakes his head.
Good. Boy, drag this cretin to the church. We've a busy night ahead of ourselves.
The candles bask the walls with light, revealing the bright colours of the paintings etched across the stone. The art depicts a series of people collapsing to their knees in fear and awe of several beings made of gold. The beings are of the same stature as the humans in the paintings, but behind them stands something larger, something bright and inconceivable. The painting of the sun god Solmeria was one of the grand additions to the church made some 200 years ago. Now, however, the paint begins to thin and crack, and the divine presentation of God looks anything but. The priest's injured body is laid out on top of the altar. His whimpers grow faint as Henrika finishes her chanting. The boy has been instructed to feed the priest wine to dull the pain. The shambly-haired man had impressively downed the whole bottle. It has been quite some time since she had to put a bone back in place, but she knows that if done incorrectly it could result in an even worse injury. She finishes her simple divination spell in order to identify where exactly the hip dislocated.
Boy, come here.
The stable boy leaps up from his pew and walks over. His sheer mortification over what he had done to the poor man lying on the altar has removed all sense of exhaustion from his body. He looks down at the priest. He sees the shambly-haired man's eyes swell with drunken fury as a cold sweat drips down his forehead. He looks up at the witch.
Place your hand on his thigh and torso. I need you to steady him.
The boy nods, sweating profusely. He holds the priest down. The priest begins to whimper loudly as Henrika's cold hands touch his exposed hip. She looks at the boy.
On the count of 3, I'm going to push. Ready?
The boy nods.
1.
His whimpers grow heavy for a moment before getting lighter. His eyes begin to droop as he slips into unconsciousness.
Will he be all right?
He'll be fine. He just needs some.
Henrika's eyes wander and she spots something. She moves down the altar and begins to examine the priest's shoes. The browning leather is new, yet parts of the shoe have been damaged. The witch removes a vial from her pocket containing a clear liquid. She uncorks the vial and holds it below his nose. The priest jolts back up, fully awake. The sudden movement irks his hip and he lies back down on the altar.
Could you not let me rest?
I do not have the time nor patience for horse thieves and conspirators.
What are you on about?
Don't lie, priest. I found a fragment of your shoes by the mist in the orchard. You stole my horse while his moron slept. You led her down to the orchard to die.
And what they did, eh? It's just a bloody horse.
So you admit it?
The priest falls silent, laying his head back on the altar, exhausted.
The acid coursing through the valley came from pools of black blood beneath the ground. The fact that you were able to get so close to such a pool and still be alive is a testament to your will and your faith. Faith which I find lacking, for I believe it is proof of collaboration.
How could I collaborate with a tree?
I did not mention a tree.
The priest looks up at her. Defeated, he sighs and lays his head back down.
Oh, bugger.
When did it begin?
You insolent little witch. Do you have any idea how much money your little charade is costing me?
Father Lockstyle, what are you talking
That's not
about?
my name, you git. This miserable little village, so in need of saving and whatnot. An old church no one used since the old priest went mad and drowned himself. I comes through during the winter, sees a group of miserable people, no one to turn to. Thought I could make a bit of money, so I did. Boy, was I a moron. Nothing proper poor here. Then she arrived.
What happened?
3 weeks ago, in the beginning, I had dreams. She came to me one night and told me of a way I could get out of here, richer than I could ever dreamed of. So I went into the mist to greet her.
Who?
Kaya. I'd never been able to connect with people, like proper connect. I knew they had more than they were willing to give, but I couldn't get it. They wouldn't hand it over. Then the mist came, and all of a sudden, all these poor little people came flooding my pockets, begging for salvation. But salvation ain't cheap. What they gave would never be enough. And I was convinced them that this land was lost, that it was barren, and that because of our sin, we were forced to flee for greater pastures beyond. Or something like that. I don't know.
The mist wanted everyone to leave?
Yes, he was going to take everything from them. Their food, water, their children. All they held dear would suffer and die if we didn't run off. So it was. So it will be.
You idiot! Do you know what you've done?
I've made myself rich is what I've done. Bloody townsfolk give me everything now. Made a pretty penny for myself. But that's not all. I'm going to go to the Lord and says, if he don't give me some proper gold, they'll be alright. And I ain't going to be pretty either. You've seen what I did the other day. A crowd. People are livid. 1 girl dead. 2 more disappeared in that forest after I let them go looking for you. Ooh, they're proper scared now. Lord will have to accept. He's looking to get married again, so he is. He wouldn't want anything to happen to his reputation, now would he?
Children have died because of you.
No, they've died because of the mist. I'm just trying to get by here. It's not my fault they're sick and scared. I just want their money. Their money's better off my pocket anyways.
You said you saw Kaya in your dreams. Did she tell you that we were in the cemetery?
Yeah, she didn't want you to touch her body.
How did she die?
Killed herself. Swallowed poison, so she did. Typical end to a whore, if you ask me.
The boy's face flashes with fury as he punches the priest right in the hip. The shambly-haired man screams out in agony as the boy retreats. Henrika's eyes go wide as she watches this display of lunacy occur right in front of her.
He's crippled me again!
You'll be fine.
The witch watches the boy leave, slamming the front door of the church behind her.
Though I've been wrong before.
She looks down at the charlatan, now writhing in agony.
Tell me, where is your collection box?
Why?
Reimbursement, father. It's nigh time I'm paid what I'm owed.
She finds the boy by the grave, trembling with spade in hand, as he begins to heave the mound of dirt to bury the coffin. The witch approaches.
What are you doing?
Stay back. I won't let you touch her.
That's not up to you.
I'm not scared of you.
Drop the spade now, boy.
The boy looks in her cold silver eyes.
You're wrong. It can't be her. Someone else, not her. She wouldn't do this. She wouldn't.
What's your name, boy?
Lorcan. My name's Lorcan.
Lorcan. The thing that disturbs this land is not Kaya. It is something very dangerous and very powerful. Nothing you or I have ever encountered. To fight it, I need to look at her body.
The boy looks down at the grave. His eyes begin to water.
She's at peace now.
She's very much not. What is happening is hurting her just as much as it is hurting the valley. Will you let me examine her?
If you have to, then yes.
Good. Now go to my quarters in the villa. There is an old grey leather bag in the corner by the fireplace. I need you to bring it to me. I'll be performing the autopsy inside the church. Go now.
The boy gives a shallow nod and makes his way to his gelding. The witch watches him ride off as he veers out of sight. The witch jumps down into the grave. She removes the dirt he had hastily piled on and proceeds to break open the coffin. She had been buried for at least 2 months. Henrika looked upon the poor girl. The stench would cling to her for quite some time, as all these experiences tended to do. She heaved the corpse out of the grave and proceeded to drag Kaya's body into the church. Hours passed by as the boy sat in the church waiting. The priest had succumbed to sleep on the altar. The boy had turned him on his side so that the priest would not choke on his vomit, a death common for many drunkards in the village. But while exhaustion did plague the boy, his eyes did not grow heavy. He feared of what he would see upon drifting off into sleep. The witch ascended from below, having left her coat and hat behind. Her sleeves were rolled up. He sees the burns stretched all along her forearms. She does not hide it, unlike her face, which is still covered with the scarf. The boy pities her, thinking what a horrible fate it is to befall someone. She sits down next to him. They are silent for a moment before she begins speaking.
I finished the autopsy. We will bury her again at once.
The boy does not reply. She looks at him sadly.
You cared for her, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And for that I am sorry. I am sorry I forced you to endure this nightmare. It is one of the greatest shames of my life.
I saw her at the villa all the time. She was so beautiful and sweet and kind, and I loved her. Yeah, I loved her a great deal. I do not wish to see her now, not the way she is.
I understand.
Have you ever loved anyone, witch?
I don't love anything.
In a way, you're lucky. For I cannot bear this loss any longer.
Luck has nothing to do with it. Fate has forced me to calcify my heart. Do not wish for something you will soon regret.
But you have such power. You could bring her back. You could fix this.
You've heard stories, but they are just so. I am not all I appear to be. I can conjure small flames and with the right components perform some magical feats. But I cannot resurrect people. I cannot turn people into toads, and I cannot curse you and your family. I am sorry for intimidating you, but understand, fear is what I am. Fear protects me. Fear is how I survive. Without it, I am dead in the water. But know that even if I could bring her back, I wouldn't. The dead should stay dead, Lorcan. That's how it should be.
The two fall silent for a moment as the boy thinks deeply on what he has just heard.
What happened to you to make you this way? I've heard the stories, but I don't know what to believe anymore.
She looks away and stares up at the paintings across the ceiling of the church. Crinkled paint displays the divine, shimmering brightness of angelic beings floating above the ground as people collapse to their knees in fear and awe. The sun breaks from the clouds, and while the paint is cracked and dim, there is a strange warmth to it that haunts the witch.
My coven and I were travelling. We ran into a mob on the outskirts of Derrimore. They grabbed me and another. They tied us up and burned us at the stake. I don't know what happened after that. I awoke days later in a strange bed. My coven had left me behind, and some nun had taken care of me. I was horribly injured. They said I would die. Said I was surely to descend into madness, and yet they brought me back to health all the same. And I left.
Your coven, are they...
They call me the last witch of the East for a reason. Let's leave it at that. The world I live in and the one you dwell in is very different. You have a home. You have people who love and care about you. You work very hard for very little, but there is safety and there is comfort despite all your struggles. I have none of those luxuries. The world I live in wishes me harm. It wants to kill me, and it will if I let it. I do not live my life, Lorcan. I merely survive it.
I am sorry for the things you have to be.
The witch looks at him for a moment, and then looks away. They once more fall into silence as they look upon the church. The dark sky outside grows lighter as the candles begin to dim.
Did you and Kaya ever do anything?
No, I never even spoken to her. I regret it now. I wish I wasn't the way that I am. And now, she's gone. I couldn't believe it when I heard that she killed herself. She was so good.
Do you know if she was involved with anyone else? Anyone courting her attention?
No. Why'd you ask?
Because I've just finished her autopsy, Lorcan. The girl was pregnant.
To be continued. The Witch and the Orchard. Starring Margarita Murphy as Henrika O'Dare, Jeremy Mottram as Lorcan, Connor Charlton as Father Loxley, Tasha Henderson as the Pale Girl, Sinead Lunny as the Innkeeper, Aidan O'Sullivan as the Town Drunk and Gregor Bastentia. Narrated by Frank Cannon. Recorded by Craig Sheridan and Sean McDonnell at Amp Studio Belfast. Special thanks to Sal Brennan. Special thanks to freesound.com and 99sounds.com. Created by Desmond Lynch.